So good evening, everyone, and welcome to Needham's 4th Annual International Overdose Awareness Day Vigil. This year's theme is One Big Family Driven by Hope. My name is Phil Bonacia, and I'm nearly a lifelong resident of Needham. I graduated from Needham High School in 1985, and after a few years away from the town, my wife and I returned in the year 2000 to raise our family. Today, 25 years later, our almost 30-year-old children live outside of Massachusetts, and they're doing wonderfully as they make their way in this oftentimes difficult world. In the last 10 years, however, our family has been impacted by addiction, and our journey has been nothing short of miraculous. They say that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's community. And that is indeed why we are here tonight. We welcome Needham's recovery community. We welcome Needham's residents and community members who are here tonight, as well as Katie King, our town manager, State Representative Josh Tarski. We welcome Superintendent Dan Gutenkast, and we also welcome Needham Select Board members Kevin Keene and Heidi Frail. Before proceeding, I'd like to offer a land acknowledgement. It's important to understand the long-standing history that has brought us to reside on this land and to seek to understand our place within that history. Land acknowledgements do not exist in a past tense or historical context. Colonialism is a current ongoing process, and we need to be mindful of our present participation. I'd now like to invite my friend Deacon John Barry to lead us in an opening prayer.
I'd like to just take a moment to put ourselves in the presence of a higher power, to acknowledge the over 1,700 lives that were lost in the most recent account, 1763. To think of those who, in our life, have been impacted by this disease. Good and gracious God, we ask you to watch over all of us in this great big family. We ask you to help us to support one another. We ask you to help those who have been impacted by this malady. That is not a moral failing, but a struggle that many of us have had to endure. We ask you to give us strength, to give us courage, and to give us hope. We ask you to help us to support one another each day as we move forward. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Deacon John. I would next like to introduce Kalina Mihova and Molly Lemberg from Salsa so that they can describe the purple flag display that is behind everybody on the hillside.
At Needham High School, the Salsa Club is short for Students Advocating for Life Without Substance Abuse. Salsa is the student-led organization focused on substance misuse prevention and promoting healthy lifestyles. The club actively works to create a positive environment that provides resources for students to make informed choices about substance abuse. Salsa has over 200 members and is one of the largest and most active clubs at Needham High School.
The flags you see on display here represent the 1,763 people from Massachusetts whose lives were lost to overdose between July 2023 and June 2024. They were cherished mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, sisters, brothers, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, partners, and friends. They were loved and they're missed beyond words. We have red flags available tonight for anyone who would like to write the name of their loved ones lost to overdose and add it to the display. Please see the table with the flags and the markers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Molly and Kalina. Thanks for doing such an incredible job with salsa. Next, I would like to introduce and have you help me welcome Lauren Majors. She's a nurse practitioner and supports addiction services at the BID Needham, and she's going to tell us a little bit about Narcan. Lauren.
To talk to you about something that can save a life in just a few minutes, Narcan. You don't need to be a healthcare worker to use it. You just need to know what it is, when to use it, and how to use it. By the end of this talk, you'll feel more confident and more comfortable knowing what to do if you come across somebody who you may suspect is having an opioid overdose. Let's begin with first understanding what an opioid is. Right? Opioids are a group of drugs that are used traditionally to treat pain. We think of things that are prescribed like oxycodone, Percocet, Dilaudid, as well as things like street supply things like fentanyl and heroin, as well as some other substances that are available over the counter. And that's what's really scary, is that there are medications like kratom, tianeptine, or 7-OH that people can buy over the counter that have some opioid-like properties. So we know that people are coming into contact with it. So what do the opioids actually do? Besides relieving pain, one of the things they do is they attach to our receptors that we have all around our body, and it slows processes down. It's one of the reasons why people, when they take opioids, can get constipated. One of the other things it does is attach to our respiratory system. So people's respiratory rates can go really low. And unfortunately, when people take large amounts of opioids, or opioids when they're not expecting to, their respiratory rate can go down, leading them to not be able to breathe. And after just a short period of time of not getting oxygen to the brain begins to shut off. After just 3 to 5 minutes of not getting oxygen to the brain, we start to develop brain damage and possibly even death. Thankfully, there is something we can do to prevent it, right? There is a medication that we can give, but the first thing we need to do is understand what are the signs of an overdose. So if we were to see somebody on the street or see a family member with it, how do we recognize it? First thing is you're looking for somebody who may not be responsive, both not responsive to both physical and verbal stimulus, right? That means I'm trying to shake them awake and they're not responding. I'm trying to shake their shoulders, they're not responding. They may not be breathing. They may have a slow pulse. Their lips may be blue. If you're seeing these signs, the first thing you want to do is say, call 911. So if I'm with people, you want to look directly at somebody. So if I was to look directly at you and say, call 911, rather than just yell, hey, somebody call 911. Because if I'm shouting to everybody, then we're looking at anybody could call, and nobody thinks that they're actually going to be the one to call. So really important is to look directly at a person and say, call 911. If you're not with anyone, call 911 and then administer Narcan. Okay, so we've gotten to that point. We've decided we're going to administer Narcan. How do we do it? So the first thing we do is we just get the package, we open it up, we put it into the patient's nostril, squeeze down, that's it. If there's no response in 2 to 3 minutes, you can repeat that. If you have the ability to do CPR or administer rescue breathing, you can do that as well. The amazing thing is Narcan works by kicking the opioid off the opioid receptor, allowing a patient to breathe. The scary thing with Narcan is it really only lasts about 30 to 90 minutes. And unfortunately, opioids can last for longer than that. So once the Narcan comes out of the system, the opioid can reattach to the opioid, the receptor, and unfortunately, somebody can overdose again. So it's really important that we stay with somebody who is having an overdose until EMS arrives, right, until 911 arrives, and we try to encourage them to go to the hospital. They may need to stay there for a little bit so that they can continue to get Narcan if they need it. The nice thing is that we have this ability, and we have Narcan at one of these tables. Can you guys raise your hand? The table that has Narcan. So after this, we've all been trained on Narcan. So everybody can go to that table and pick up their own box of Narcan. I think we should think of Narcan as a fire extinguisher, right? We all have one. We should all have one in our houses. We all hope that we never have to use it, but we're so thankful when we can use it, right? Because it saves lives. So again, I encourage everybody to carry Narcan. I personally carry Narcan with me everywhere I go. I keep it in my backpack. I keep it in my lunchbox. I hope never to have to use it, but I'm so thankful when I can use it. The question I always get from people is, okay, what happens if I'm wrong and this person isn't having an overdose and I give them Narcan? Am I in trouble? Nothing's going to happen. There is nothing wrong if you give Narcan to somebody who is not having an opioid overdose. But the reality is, if we give it to somebody and they are having an opioid overdose, you've just saved a life. So think, as we're ending this, is that we have the ability to save a life. So I encourage everybody today, as you leave here, please pick up a box of Narcan. You've been trained on how to give it. You can see it's super easy to give. There's a handout with how to give Narcan if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lauren. So next up in tonight's event, we're going to have several guest speakers, and we're going to start with Colin Van Dyke.
Hi, I'm Colin, and I'm a person in recovery. First, I want to give a shout out to Needham Fire Department, Needham EMTs, Needham Police Department, Needham Hospital, all the staff that have helped me through my various overdoses. I know through a dark point in my life, I had 3 intubations in 6 weeks, and I had to be Section 35 by Needham Police Department. It wasn't good, but so I'm going to start off with my speech. 80,391. That's the number of people who died from drug overdoses in the U.S. last year. That's 4 times the number of firearms deaths. When addiction can begin with something as simple as a doctor's prescription, we need to rethink the stigma. I was put on Adderall at a young age. I had that hot stove personality, curious, impulsive, always reaching for danger. At 13, I stumbled across my aunt's massive medicine cabinet. That moment unknowingly sealed my fate. I didn't choose addiction. No one warned me about tolerance or withdrawal, or the possibility of ending up homeless. I signed up for something I couldn't even comprehend. I fell in love with benzos and opioids. I spent 2 weeks in a blackout haze, nodding off, destroying a family vacation without even realizing it. I'm not sharing this for sympathy. I'm sharing it because I want you to understand the real dangers of overdose and what fentanyl can do to your body, your mind, and your life. Sorry. In May of 2024, I overdosed on fentanyl in a hotel room. I was found hypoxic, barely breathing the next morning by hotel staff. I was rushed to ICU and spent 5 days in a coma. When I woke up, I couldn't feel my left leg. It's now partially paralyzed. I went through dialysis. I spent 4 months in a rehab facility. Oh, no. Okay. Thank you. I spent 4 months in a rehab facility, a year in a wheelchair, and I still do physical therapy. Today I walk with a cane for short distances and I use a walker for longer ones. When people ask me about my hobbies, I usually just say video games. I can't skate, hike, or swim anymore. The only reason I'm still here is because of my dad. He pushed me uphill in a wheelchair through rain, sleet, and snow just to get me back home. He gave me the time and support I needed to relearn how to walk. He deserves Father of the Year 100 times over. Here's the truth. Using fentanyl is Russian roulette. You never know when you'll hit a hot spot. You don't want to end up like me or worse, dead. Growing up in the opioid epidemic was brutal. I lost friends constantly. When that's your reality, you start expecting an early death. I had a death wish. I didn't think I'd live to see 2018. I'm now 27. I've survived more than 15 overdoses. Somehow I'm still here. I truly believe God has looked after me. I know how hard it is not to relapse, and yes, relapse can be part of recovery, so here are a few harm reduction tips. Never use alone. Always have someone nearby who knows how to respond to an overdose. Learn to spot fake pills. Cheap Xanax presses often contain fentanyl. Don't believe the myth that you can't overdose from smoking fentanyl. You absolutely can. And watch out for xylazine. It's being mixed into fentanyl now. I knew someone who injected it into his leg 3 times and his legs started to rot away. This epidemic feels like warfare, a war against my friends, my family, your family. I now have over a year clean minus a brief relapse with benzos. You do get used to being sober. You can return to the person you were before using, but it takes work. You have to dig deep, face your emotions, and confront your trauma. Figure out what you're trying to bury, find hobbies that give you purpose, and stay away from the so-called friends who want to pull you down. It's hard to love an addict, but we all need love. I couldn't have done this without my family. To those who've lost someone, no words can bear the weight of your grief. You don't move on, but you do move forward. Even though it hurts like hell every day, you persevere. That's what they'd want you to do. Anyone can get sober. I used to hear people say, if I can do it, you can. I didn't believe them because I didn't believe in myself. But I believe in you. You're in my prayers. I'm Colin and I'm in recovery.
Let's all give Colin another round of applause. And Colin, I don't know you other than tonight, but I know how vulnerable you just were. You didn't have to do that. You didn't have to come up in front of anybody or say anything, but you did, and it's unbelievably humbling. It's unbelievably humbling, and everything that you said is so heartfelt, and I just want to say I love you. Our next speaker is Hayden Krug. Hayden is a Needham resident, a Needham High School sophomore, and a member of SALSA. Hayden?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Overdose Awareness Day. My name is Hayden Krug. I'm 16 years old and a sophomore at Needham High School. I have a love for sports, a competitive spirit, and a strong passion for music. I get all of these things from my dad. I lost him as a result of overdose when I was 13. I was barely a teenager and had very little understanding of what substances were, let alone the fact that someone so close to me abused them. Growing up, I never knew my dad was an addict. He hid it well. Too well. In 2019, when I was 9 years old, I was told, Daddy has to go away for a little while to learn to stop yelling so much and not be so angry all the time. Although it wasn't a total lie, I wasn't ready to hear the truth. He went to a treatment center for 30 days with promises to get and be better for me and my family. When he returned, his promises were unfulfilled and he continued to use substances, becoming even worse than before. He became even more disconnected, absorbed by his phone, stranded at work, and even when the restaurant he owned and operated closed in 2020, he was still never present. He went to another treatment center in November of 2021 until January of 2022, and upon his discharge, my parents decided it was best for him not to return to our home right away. He spent the next year living very close by with my grandparents, but was still very distant, and I didn't see him much. In December of 22, in the winter of my 7th grade year, my father was hospitalized for a few days before being court-ordered to another treatment center. It was then that my mom sat me down to talk. My younger brother wasn't home. I was eager to hear what my mom wanted to tell me, what was so important. She asked me questions, wanted to know what creative assumptions I had formed and what I actually knew. I was confused when she told me I was wrong. I didn't know what an addict was, what the word meant, or what the word was about to mean to me. I let her explain, hearing some, not all. A world of questions opened up. I wasn't totally aware that the gravity of this information would have been so life-changing. If I had known, I would have braced myself to hear those words that were presented yet so gently. The more I learned, the more I wondered. The more questions I asked myself, the more anxious I got. I didn't know what to believe, what moments were truly real, if I could have changed anything, if I knew, could I have helped? The short answer is no. From that day, I always wondered if my dad was really himself, or if something was taking over him, taking control of him. It was too much for my young brain to handle at the time, but little did I know it would bring me to where I am today. The following months were anxiety-inducing as they left me waiting to hear updates on my dad's whereabouts and how he was doing. 2 months later, he passed away on February 15th, 2023. I found out the morning of the 16th at around 3 in the morning after waiting countless hours that felt like lifetimes, sitting on my basement floor, pacing hallways and counting the number of outcomes. When I found out, of course I was devastated, drowned in grief like never before. My questions turned into statements that stuck like glue. Of course I could have helped, why didn't I? I could have changed this outcome if I had done something differently. I will never truly know my father. These statements all have something in common. They are debilitating, but also false. There is nothing that I or anyone else could have done to prevent his actions. We are incapable and not responsible. We should not feel guilt for the loss of a loved one due to their own choices and actions. We cannot help them, they must help themselves. It took me a long time to learn these things, to adjust to the new way of life without him and with this weight. It wasn't easy, but it did get better. Whether you're here because you or someone you love is struggling, because someone you love lost their battle, or simply because you want to support your community, thank you. I'm choosing to honor my dad by coming up here and speaking to all of you today, by supporting my peers in their relationship with substances, by saying no to substances myself, but most importantly, by making a change, by leaving a positive impact on the world little by little, by spreading awareness, by sharing my story, by spreading love, by building community. I do it for him, and I do it for all of you. Thank you, and have a good night.
Thank you very much, Hayden. Really, really beautiful witness and a really, really beautiful testament. Our last speaker is Angela Kelly. She's the program director at a local addiction facility, the Greater Boston Addiction Center right here in Needham. Angela began her journey into the field of mental health and addiction services after having personal experiences with family members who struggle with addiction. Today, she's going to speak about her personal and professional experiences with the grief that comes from loving someone in addiction and the hope she has for the future of recovery. Angela?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out this evening. Thank you to the town of Needham for continuing to host this event each year, as it is so important to raise awareness for causes as important as this. It is an honor to be able to speak tonight. As you heard, I'm one of the therapists and also the program director at Greater Boston Addiction Center, an addiction and mental health facility here in your hometown of Needham. I work in the field each day, doing all I can to help inspire people to change their lives and fight to improve their circumstances. When I was growing up down in Weymouth, Massachusetts, addiction, AA, recovery were common words for me to hear. I come from a family who struggles with addiction on both sides. I've seen my uncles and cousins struggle. I've also gotten to see them thrive and live beautiful, full lives. My oldest brother, Philip, was also an addict. As a child, I didn't know. I could tell there was something off about Phil, but I was too young to really tell. Despite being off, he was still successful. He was working full-time. He had a beautiful daughter, my niece, Natalie. He had friends. Everyone loved Phil. But I don't think he loved himself. He had many demons, like many of us have. And he had a drug addiction, which he leaned on to avoid dealing with those things. And ultimately, in March of 2017, at 36 years old, he died of an overdose. Philip left behind his daughter, friends, and family. He also left behind a legacy of someone who was trying, who loved life, and who was a good man. He just didn't get the help that he needed so desperately. Phil hasn't been able to see it, but he is one of the main sources of my inspiration to work in the field. My goal going into the recovery space was to be the person that my brother may have needed. Through my work, I have seen hundreds of inspirational stories of hope and success from people who struggle and found their way out. As I look into the audience tonight, I urge all families here to speak openly about these topics just as my family did for my siblings and I. I am also a mother of a beautiful 3-year-old boy, and I plan to have those conversations with him as well. We all deserve to feel loved and to know that there is help when we need it, and that asking for help isn't a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength. The stigma around addiction remains, but thankfully it has lessened significantly. There are so many resources for us as parents and as a community that we can lean on for support, and tonight is a beautiful example of that. I will leave you all with this. One of my favorite quotes that came across in my work was shared with me by a client, and forgive me, I don't know the original source. A person dies twice, once when they leave the physical earth, and once again when their name is no longer spoken. So I am here to pay tribute to my brother Philip, to my peers from high school, and to the few members of the Greater Boston Addiction Center community who we've lost to the throes of addiction, and also to the loved ones any of you may have lost to similar causes. I invite you now to softly say their name aloud. May we continue to speak their names and carry the message that those around us are loved and that there is always a way out when you feel stuck. Thank you for the opportunity to share tonight.
Thank you very much, Angela. You know, this is the 4th year that Needham's had this observance of International Overdose Awareness Day. It's the 3rd year that I've been here, and just in the last little bit of time, I've learned, like many of you probably already know, that 1 in 7 Americans suffer from the scourge of addiction to drugs or alcohol. And when you add in other forms of addiction, and when you add in the number of impacted family members, 1 in 4 are dealing with addiction in one way or another. We're all broken in one way or another. And as Angela so beautifully said, we all need love and we all need community, because addiction leads to isolation. But as I said at the beginning, the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's community. And as Angela said, it's a beautiful, beautiful example of community that we're showing and representing tonight. So let's thank our guest speakers one more time. So we're going to end our evening tonight with a moment of silence. I think the votive candles were passed out. If you have one of those purple votive candles, we're going to invite you to turn those on in just a minute, so that we can observe a moment of silence in memory of lives lost. And we'll do that by illuminating the candles. If there is a name of someone that you've lost, speak their name out loud as you turn on your candle. We honor those we've lost, and we declare that together we will work to spread light, spread hope, spread prevention, and recovery. Please feel free to turn on your light, and let's observe now a moment of silence.
This is a song, I don't think I'm working here. How's that? Much better. This is a song about hope, resilience, and collective empowerment. Each of us has the power to make positive change in the world. Together we are unstoppable. Broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round, and you can't find the fighter, but I see it in you, so we're gonna walk it out and move mountains. We're gonna walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you. The silence isn't quiet. It feels like it's getting hard to breathe. I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet and move mountains. Take it to its feet and move mountains. And I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you. All we need is hope. And for that we have each other. And for that we have each other. And we will rise, we will rise, we'll rise. Oh, we'll rise. I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I'll rise up and do it 1,000 times again. We'll rise up, rise like the waves. We'll rise up in spite of the ache. We'll rise and do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you,
Thank you so much, Melissa. So I want to say thanks to the Planning Committee. I want to say thank you to Deacon John Barry, Deputy Chief Chris Baker, Lauren Majors, Angela Kelly, Linda Rosenberg, Angie McDonald, Karen Shannon, Megan Rocket, Ginny Chacon Lopez, Monica DeWinter, Molly Lemberg, Kalina Mihova, Hayden Krug. A special thanks to the Town of Needham custodial staff, for helping us out tonight. A special thanks to the Needham Plugged In Band for bringing us music this evening, to Sandra Rizkala, co-founder and executive director of the Plugged In Band, to Melissa Mata, our vocalist tonight, and to Roberto Alaniz, our musician and sound engineer. A big round of applause for everybody. On your way out tonight, if you happen to pass by the Needham Town Hall, you'll see that it is lit in purple in honor of Overdose Awareness Day. As you leave today, whether you go towards the town hall, hopefully you'll stay around and mull around, linger, and move around the resource tables. We encourage you to stay and access information, connection, and support from the organizations that have come tonight, so please visit their tables to learn more about their offerings. And Narcan, as was mentioned, is available from the Needham Public Health Division. Thank you all for coming tonight.